As much as I love trash talking games, in this video I'm going to do something different. This is a brand new series where I'm going to talk about the most sentimental games from my childhood. It's called the Billlius Platinum Collection. And it only seems fitting that I started off with a game based on my favourite film. Now in my Secret of the Unicorn video, I mention in relation to the game's poor quality that it is nothing more than, and I quote, a shameless attempt to release the title in sync with the release of the film with little regard for the robustness and overall quality. Now I stand by those words. I mean, look at the ET game, it's horrible. But I then go on to say it's a situation that unfortunately is seen with lots of games based on films, which is wrong. I should have added, except Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Let me explain. What do you get when you make a game based on the most epic fantasy film in history? That's right, an equally epic game. It seems very fitting, doesn't it? It's not enough that the Lord of the Rings trilogy completely redefined the fantasy genre, broke box office records, won more awards than can count, and remains not only my favourite film franchise, but apparently everyone else on the internet. And on top of all that, also has amazing games? Wow, man. Saying that, I should probably mention that the Fellowship of the Ring game isn't actually that good, at least in comparison to the other titles. You see, Two Towers and Return of the King, both published by EA, are licensed adaptations of the films, while Fellowship of the Ring, published by Vivendi Games, is a licensed adaptation of the book. EA didn't make a standalone Fellowship game, but instead incorporated parts of it into the Two Towers game. Vivendi Games had plans for subsequent Two Towers and Return of the King's games, but the sales and ratings of Fellowship was dwarfed by the EA titles and was ultimately cancelled. And well, I hate to say it, but fair enough as well. The EA games are fantastic. They're hack and slash action adventure at its finest. Combined with all the locations, creatures, orcs, heroes, villains of the Lord of the Rings universe, and you have a formula for a simple yet highly compelling video game. The game drops you right off at the finale of Two Towers. No tutorials, no cutscenes, just this. Oh yeah, does it even need explaining? Actually, yeah, apparently it does. Gimli acts as your instructor for like the first 2 minutes, and you can't hear what he's saying because the game's so goddamn loud.
The new Gandalf has quite a temper.
Seriously, that's not me altering the audio, that's how the game sounds. I might have done something wrong with the recording, but then again, I always remember this game being absurdly loud. Even selecting the language requires earplugs. So after Helm's Deep, the story splits into 3 arcs. One with Gandalf, one with Frodo and Sam, and one with Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli. It follows the events of Return of the King in a loose kind of way. As I've said before, movie games have got to take segues. Like, did you know it was actually Gandalf that flooded Isengard? Well, if you didn't play the game, you wouldn't have known that. The levels are so awesome. Each one has different kinds of objectives, things to do, and enemies to kill. On your first playthrough, you're expected to play as the specified character or characters, but once you beat the game, you can play through as anyone, meaning the replay value is very high. And speaking of replayability, each character can be leveled up to a maximum of 20 and upgraded with new abilities and combos. Every orc you kill rewards you with a number of experience points that you can spend on these when the level ends. These can range from practical to just downright gimmicky, but damn, pulling off some of these combos is so goddamn satisfying. The amount of points you get is determined with how often you stay in combat, and is shown as the meter next to your life bar. Once it reaches maximum, you enter perfect mode, where for a short period of time all your kills reward maximum points. Now this is where the beauty of this game comes into play. Having an added incentive to kill orcs, as well as having all these abilities that you can use, makes the whole combat experience highly engaging. As I've said before, it's such a simple concept, but it's executed so flawlessly. And yeah, you can play co-op. Can this game actually get any better? Like, seriously. For the most part, the camera is always following you in a sort of third-person overhead view. But playing through this game again, I've come to appreciate the subtle inclusions of fixed and scripted cameras. I mean, this is a movie game after all, so in a lot of levels you get these nice cinematic shots that really show off the scale and overall detail of the levels, and for the time, showed off the amazing graphics as well. Moreover, the cutscenes do this awesome thing where it shows footage from the movie and blends it in with the game's graphics. Needless to say, a satisfying feature to watch. The cutscenes are brilliant on their own. For starters, if you play as a character that's not meant to be in the level, they just stand there awkwardly and ruin the whole scene.
I have a token I was bidden to show thee. Frodo's mithril vest. Poor hobbit must be dead.
I shall give you a message for your master.
Come on, Mr. Frodo. I know the way out of here.
And sometimes I just can't make out what the characters are saying.
We're getting clobbered! Pull out! Into the tower, boys! Hurry! The ring raids come! Dark Riders, stand back!
And speaking of dialogue, the characters don't shut up during the game.
Climb the rubble, quickly! Up here, quickly! You will not stop me! Strike it repeatedly! They're trying to block us!
Hey, here's a bit of trivia. In the Battle of Pelennor Field's cutscene, they show Elwyn fighting the Witch King. But notice something strange here? Yeah, that's not the Witch King from the film. Well, this was actually the original design, but it changed because it looked too similar to Sauron. While I like the design they went with, I really dig the old look. Looking back on it, the game is quite short. I beat it in one sitting. But I've determined that it's quality over quantity. As I mentioned before, the levels are awesome. There's so much you can do. Yeah, every level follows a fixed path, but it always seems to be a new experience on each playthrough. And some of the things that you can do never get old. Like when you push the bell down the stairs in the Escape from Osgiliath level. Anyone who played this game knew how fun and memorable the levels were, especially when they had interactive things like this. There's the famous Minas Tirith top of the wall level, where you're single-handedly destroying siege towers, pushing down ladders and killing orcs, because apparently all Gondor could muster is a handful of troops. There's a meter on the top that tells you where the ladders and siege towers are. It's a very stressful level because you're constantly running back and forth, doing your thing and hoping that the walls don't get overrun. But damn, this one was always a blast. There's Shelob's Lair, where you're fighting giant spiders in a massive cave. This level was always hard to navigate, but there would always be things to find down each passage, like the dead Gondor soldier or the orc that's getting attacked by spiders.
Help me!
What about when all the orcs are gathered around the fire and you throw the torch at the spider web and set them all alight? But whoa, this is what we all came to do. Oh baby! Southern Gate was always that level I played to grind out points because the orcs would constantly respawn. How could you say no to a slugfest like this, especially when there's catapults and trolls involved? Well, I think we can all agree that by far the best level was Cirith Ungol. Your objective is simple: kill 80 orcs before advancing up the tower. How you did it was completely up to you. Sure, you could fight them all individually, but how could you resist the perfectly placed traps, like crushing them with the drawbridge, pouring oil on them, blowing them up, lighting them on fire, and of course, the best of all, okay, now, to this day, that is still just as satisfying as ever. I first played this game 15 years ago, and when I first did this, it was the best thing I ever saw. And I bet in another 15 years, it'll be just as delightful as ever. Cirith Ungol will always be one of those special levels in video games where it's nothing less than an honour to play. Actually, I take that back. The whole game is an honour to play. The last level in the story is the Crack of Doom. It's the only level where you play as Frodo and he's only fighting one enemy, Gollum. It's not particularly hard and I wouldn't necessarily classify it as the boss level. No, that title goes to the preceding Black Gate, where you fight the hordes of Mordor. Now the whole time you're doing this, you have to defend either Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli or Aragorn, depending on who you play. But the friendly AI is absolutely abysmal, to the point where all they can do is blindly swing their sword until they get knocked off their feet. Which is pretty funny considering, Gandalf killed the Balrog and Aragorn is the heir of Isildur, but can't fend off a mindless rabble of orcs. The same goes for the 6 other soldiers you fight with. Before you fight the orcs though, you fight the Mouth of Sauron, who's actually quite difficult. And if that's not enough, at the end, you fight the Ring Wraiths. That's right, this level's an absolute gauntlet and takes the title of the most challenging, rightly so. Saying that though, once you complete the game, you unlock 2 bonus levels that involve surviving 20 waves of orcs that get progressively harder. I would say these are the most difficult, but after playing it a few times over, you do eventually get the hang of it. You also unlock 3 characters, Faramir, Merry and Pippin, who, as you can see, I've never played that much because, who wants to play as one of the hobbits when you can play as Aragorn or Legolas? Even Gimli's decent, in fact I like him better than Legolas, but from memory, no one I played with ever chose him. There's also other stuff to look at like cheats, interviews and production stills, which is a nice little bonus thrown in. Makes more sense than the character profiles from Secret of the Unicorn, am I right? And that's it. I could go into more detail on each level and stuff, but this was really made for all the people that played this great game when they were younger, so I don't think I need to go over what they already know. And if you never have played it, well, I hope this video has shed some light on its greatness. This game is fantastic, that's all there is to say. It's one of EA's best and arguably most underrated titles and does perfect justice to the film it was based on. I guess the best conclusion I can give is that this game will go down as a timeless classic just like the films, and forever remain in the hearts of those that truly love Tolkien's magnificent world of Middle-earth. Thanks for watching. If you were disappointed by the lack of swearing in this video, then check out one of my Billlius Reviews videos for mindless but hilarious critiquing. But if you enjoyed it, let me know. I would love some feedback. There will be more coming in the near future, so make sure you're subscribed. Other than that, I'll see you next time.